I'm Sam Mitchell, and these are my stories. Alright, folks, have a good day today. Let me first welcome you to Autism Rocks Wheels. Now, before we begin, I must note that I am not a doctor or psychiatrist. If your son or daughter is diagnosed with autism, please see a physician, at least based on my experiences. I also do not own the rights to these music. Both musics are found on YouTube and were published on June 2017 and December 2019. I also have some shout-outs to give. So, the first shout I must give is to Tyson Robinson. Tyson runs the podcast called Tyson Vibe Podcast. Check this out. I was on his show a while back, and he's a really great person and a great podcaster. He really gives entrepreneurs a chance to show the world their ideas on his show. Another one would be Austin Reilly. Austin is an upcoming guest like Armani Williams. He is a racer in the motorsports world and has autism. Like Armani and me, he is breaking down those barriers, autism or not, people can achieve their dreams. The next one would be Janet and Jen. Janet and Jen were so great that I had so much fun being on their podcast. Their podcast is called On Boys, and they talk directly to the parents. They have teenage boys in the house. They really let me be myself, and for the fun, I got to even read some of my creative writing. And then the next one would be Keith Snyder. Keith hosts the podcast Anxiety About Anxiety. The cool thing is I have never formally met Keith, but I consider him my friend. He asked me to be on this podcast. I sent him on a 15-minute interview, and he loved it. This is the amazing part of his journey. I have sure met some amazing people. Another one is Laura Rodriguez Mcdonald. I'm going to give Laura a shout out. She runs a murder mystery podcast called the Ivy League Murders, along with co-host Sarah Alcorn. Although I've never met her face to face, she might be my number one fan. I so appreciate her friendship and support. The final one I'm going to give is to Shadley Cox. I also wanted to thank Shadley. He lives in Linton, Indiana, and owns a Shad Signs. He's in the process of making card decals for my business. Give him a call for all your signs needed. Oh boy, we are excited for this interview today because I know I am. I have a very special guest named Miss Mandy Harvey. Miss Harvey plays fourth on season 12 of America's Got Talent and even scored Simon Cowell's Golden Buzzer. Miss Harvey lost her hearing due to a connective tissue disorder, but she has not let this get her down with aid visual turns that help her find the correct pitch when singing. Miss Harvey is a performer and is going strong. Like me, I feel like Miss Harvey is not letting this get her down. I think her situation, like mine, shows people that quitting is not an answer. She is showing that even though she lost her hearing with help of resources and anything she is able to use, she can still do what she loves, which is sing. Welcome to Autism Rocks and Rolls, Miss Harvey. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and thank you for letting me be on your podcast. I'm super excited to be here.
Of course, anytime. Oh, if you guys want to go to Miss Mandy Harvey's website, mandyharveymusic.com, to see more information about her. All right, so we got that through. So now my first question to you is, what does being deaf mean to you?
I think that being deaf for me is just part of who I am. I don't really have a negative or positive to it. It's me.
So you're just a part. It's just a part of you.
Yeah, I mean, it can be seen as a disability or a difference, but it's also seen as something that makes you unique. Just because I can't hear and I don't experience the world around me the same way as somebody else doesn't mean that it's not perfectly normal to me. So it's just part of who I am.
Yep, I hear you. Autism is part of me for sure, and autism is a part of a lot of people. So what were your initial thoughts when you learned that you were deaf?
I initially was terrified and angry and frustrated. It happened over a period of time. So when I was first born, I was hard of hearing, and then when I lost the bulk of my hearing, I was 18, 19 years old. And so over 9 months, I lost my hearing. So the whole journey of losing my hearing, it felt like I was kind of watching myself, like watching a movie. It didn't feel real. It felt like I was just like watching a movie and I was hopefully just gonna finish it and wake up.
You were watching a horror movie.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I felt like my dreams just kind of got ripped from my hands because I had not experienced a world that said that I could be a musician and be deaf at the same time. I felt like it was a death sentence to my career.
Death or deaf? I'm not trying to make fun of you or anything. Did you say deaf or death?
So a death of my career.
Oh, a death. Okay.
Yeah, but deaf with an F is the affliction, I guess.
Yeah, I misunderstood that.
No, they get interchanged a lot, actually. People think that I'm saying death, like to die all the time. Oh yeah, she's deaf. So that I just picture myself with like the scythe and then the whole hooded cloak and everything. It's like, yeah, that's what I do on my weekends, No,
I
I don't.
kill people for a living.
I know. I mean, I don't understand how I can meet death. I feel like that's a pretty important job, though.
And that's for someone else.
Yeah, that's way, way above my pay grade.
So now, how do you think deaf brains operate?
I think that deaf brains operate very much this like the same as any other brain, except it's over sensitive to certain aspects that I think a lot of people ignore. So for me, I am hypersensitive to vibrations and hypersensitive to all of the things that are sensory outside of my ears. So I pay attention to visual cues. I pay attention to people. I pay attention to the world around me in a way that a lot of people don't because they don't have to. And I almost feel truly bad for people who don't get to experience the world the way that I do because I think that it's just beautiful.
It's all unicorns and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Just rainbows.
But I can relate to that. And this is actually a true story. The other day, I don't remember what day it was. I think it was a Sunday. I was having like really bad sensory problems though, because autism that comes with it as well.
Mm.
Oh, it was bad. I was actually in bed for a little bit, so I can definitely relate to you.
Yeah. But you get used to it. It's your world.
Yeah,
You live in it all the time. And the outside world, they kind of try to say that your world's not good enough or it can't be as enjoyable because it's not the way that they experience it. But I truly believe that we pay attention to a lot more.
I can agree with that. I can actually agree with that statement. It's just that there's so much noises in our universe that it's
Yeah,
sometimes overwhelming.
overwhelming.
That's what I feel like sometimes. What would you say be like the most rewarding thing about being deaf and the most difficult thing about being deaf?
I think the most rewarding thing about losing my hearing for me as a musician is I lost the ability to judge myself. I can't listen to myself sing and critique myself to a point where I don't want to sing anymore. I can't compare myself to anybody else, and I'm not influenced. I don't sound like anybody else. I can truly be myself without me picking myself apart. I would think that more of the difficulty side of things is that there are a lot of structures that are set up for the world that we live in that are geared towards people who can hear or who live a very specific life. And when you don't, you find yourself kind of hitting walls a lot and having to painstakingly break them down is a bit exhausting, but wholeheartedly worth it.
Exactly. Sometimes you have to drop down and rebuild yourself.
Yeah, well, and rebuild the world, actually. I've been having a lot of conversations with people trying to give them communication access for their schoolwork. Like these are barriers that if you're a fully hearing person, you don't necessarily even think about. But when you live in the world that I live in, it's almost obvious. It's painfully obvious, and it's shocking to me that it's not fixed already.
You're just
So,
surprised. It's just people can't look at it through your perspective.
yeah, just a little bit.
Well, it makes you feel any better too with your voice. You sound beautiful.
Thank you. That's very sweet.
You're welcome. Now, Alice, you're on America's Got Talent, obviously. That's how I found you. So, what made you decide to go on there?
I had a conversation with a friend of mine named Eric Weinmeier. He's the first blind man to climb Mount Everest. He's done the top summits, which means he's climbed the highest mountain on every continent, kayaked the Grand Canyon, written books. He's an insane, amazing person. And he asked me, "Why aren't you writing your own music?" And I said, "It's terrifying. I'm afraid." And he said, "What's the worst that can happen?" And so that kind of started this like idea that I really am the biggest barrier of my life. And that led me to writing a song called Try. And then when the opportunity for AGT came up, he asked me again, like, what's the worst that can happen? And I said, I don't know. And then it was followed by another question from a lot of friends of mine. And they said, what do you want to do with your life? I want to encourage people. I want to show a different side of what a disability looks like. I want to be an example of somebody who has failed miserably, publicly, and in front of everybody. And I had gotten back up off the floor, brushed my knees off, and kept moving forward. That just because you fail at something or you don't do it perfect the first time doesn't mean that it's not worth it. And so, I kind of decided, well, what's the worst that can happen? Let's go for it.
Yeah, the worst thing that happened is they could have been like, nope, bye bye, basically.
Yeah, but that still would have pushed me out of my comfort zone. I still would have grown as a person. I still would have learned, and in the process, there might still have been one person sitting in that audience who was encouraged or felt empowered by what I did. And that makes it entirely worth it, even if I was completely embarrassed.
So you were happy either way,
I
basically.
was
So it
happy
sounds
either
like.
way. Absolutely. I didn't do it to be on the show to win. I did it to encourage people. And if that's one person, fabulous. If it's a million people, why not?
Exactly. A while back, I watched like the finals, and I think Howie Mandel said it best. It's not the end for you; it's only the beginning.
Yeah.
Billy did say that. Your friend, actually, Eric. What's his name again? I apologize.
Eric Weinmeier?
Eric Weimeyer. Does he mean a lot to you, or
He does. He's a really good friend of mine. When he was in high school, he lost his vision. He has a very rare eye disease, but it's interesting to see kind of the world through his eyes and his experience. But we are the kind of friends that we push each other forward, and we don't allow each other to give up when it gets hard. And I think that those people in your life are very special.
they are? You got friends for a reason. I think the true friends who motivate you to push you above your desires or your limits, they're worth keeping. So you got the Golden Buzzer from Simon Cowell.
Yeah.
I want you to name 5 emotions you felt once he hit that button and why.
Shock. I wasn't expecting it. I didn't know what a golden buzzer was. I thought I won a car. I didn't win a car. Um, but also there was so much buildup of saying like, don't worry, the reason why you're here is not to be, winning, you're just trying to encourage people, that I was not expecting the positive feedback. I was kind of expecting to be booed off the stage, but like, oh, she tried. So shock,
Yeah,
first and foremost.
that song says it. She tried.
Yeah, I did. I tried. The second one was confusion because I was the first day of filming, and
Ooh,
right
okay.
before I walked on stage, they tested the red X's, which worked perfectly, and then they tested the golden buzzer, and it was broken. So it didn't even work. And Simon Cowell stood up on like his chair and he was like, I don't care if that button doesn't work. It's the first day of filming. I'm not gonna hit it. And I was just like, whoa, well, this is real. Like, I didn't mean to make him sound like a baby. He wasn't, but it was just like, he was like really assured of himself. And I was super, super confused. That whole thing like turned all the way around. Then next emotion would be I was just elated. I felt light. I felt overwhelmed and light. So that would be 3 and 4, overwhelmed and light. And then lastly, really humbled because I knew even if, that didn't go viral and people didn't really see it, there was a moment that was there where my talent and my hard work and my frustration and my stress was acknowledged, but also this understanding that the only reason why I actually was standing on that stage was because of the people who encouraged me to be there.
I think you're right. The people
Yeah.
who encourage you and yourself.
Yeah, but I mean, to say that, oh, I got this golden buzzer because it was supposed to be given to me and I earned it. I feel like as a team, we all earned it as a team. Like, there was no reason why I would have gone if it hadn't been for the amazing people who believed in me far more than I believed in myself.
I hear you. That makes a lot of sense. So speaking of Simon Cowell, what's he like in real life? Because I've heard he's mean. I've heard he's nice.
Yeah, he's both. I mean, he was really nice to me, like super sweet. He's had his little son who was there, and He seems like he's such a caring father and just like really loving, and his kid was so much like him. It was so cute. But on the other side, he doesn't do, seemingly it doesn't do really well with people who are really arrogant and rude. I think he enjoys taking them down a peg. So I saw him make people cry. So I've seen a little bit of both.
So he's like in the middle. I mean, he has expectations basically.
Yeah, I think it depends on how he's feeling that day.
Is he okay since I know he got a bad like bike injury? How's he doing with that?
I mean, I've been told that he's doing better, but it's gonna be a long recovery. But hopefully it won't be as long as they think. Maybe he'll bounce back. He's still young enough.
What happens actually with your syndrome? It's called Ehlers-Danlos.
Yeah, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, EDS. It is hypermobility and hyperflexibility. So basically, all of my joints and ligaments and my skin and my collagen, everything in it is extremely hypermobile. So it bends and flexes far past where they're supposed to, and then they just don't stop, which causes a lot of dislocation on my entire body. So everything pops in and out of place and causes for a lot of interesting problems.
It sounds like it. So basically, it's flex tape in your ear.
Well, it's like, I can pop my shoulder in and out of socket just by sneezing. It could be something as small as that, but also, my organs sometimes can go on vacation and they start like moving around. And so like I'll have like things like go into a place where they're not supposed to go, or, I've broken ribs by sleeping on my stomach. Like just silly things that you wouldn't think would actually hurt you could be devastating in the right circumstance.
So you sneeze and it pops. Do people think you broke your arm?
I mean, like there have been many times where like, like a person like trips and then they kind of tumble over and they just bounce right back up. I don't bounce up. Like I'm one of those people who falls and it's like, oh no, like should we call
I'm in the
someone?
hospital.
Like yeah, like I don't come back up and I don't move anymore, and they're like, oh no, it's a big deal. And so I've scared people around me, but for those small stuff like popping my shoulder in and out of socket, like I just snap it back in. And I think that's the part that makes them the most uncomfortable, because they're like, whoa. And I'm just like, it's life. It's normal for me.
It doesn't bother me. That stuff,
yeah,
pop it back in and out. You like growth. It's your body.
Yeah. I mean, and if it's like a serious dislocation and I can't do it by myself, then of course I go see somebody.
Yeah, I get that. Now we're talking your child, because you were probably a child, obviously. What is a time in your childhood that really stands out to you, probably, and why?
I think moving to Colorado. I lived in Florida for 9 years or so. And then when I was going into 5th grade, we moved to Longmont, Colorado. And it was just such a profound change of environment that it really is like vibrant in my mind. I remember every part of that move and being there and discovering another city, another place to grow up. It was hard and challenging, but also it was probably one of the best things that had happened to me as a kid.
What do you mean by vibrate in your mind? That's really interesting in my eyes.
Well, it's I don't know, like everything is you see stuff in like color, like, and it's like when I think about those moments, it's like I can't help but like see it almost in Technicolor, and I could feel what I was feeling, and I can almost like feel the music that was playing in the background. Like it was a big thing in my life.
I got you. It was just a big moment that made you think like, I want to do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, it was big.
Now, who's that person though that helped you regardless of your singing? Like who believed in you regardless of your singing?
Family. My dad and my mom, they've always been huge people in my corner, which I understand can also be quite rare. Not everybody gets the support of their family. Sometimes you have to find encouragement from outside. But my my parents have always been really loving to me, especially towards trying to help me succeed. And my dad always said, like, because people ask him all the time, they're like, well, what did you do as a dad to help your daughter through the darkest time of her life when I was severely depressed and didn't know where to go? And he said, I was just there. And I tried to love my child till she found hope. And that's what I did.
That's what we need, is just that one person, as you said, there.
Yeah, just there. Like it was the nicest thing to have a person just come sit in silence, not try to hug me, not try to hold me, not try to like tell me that they completely understood everything that I was feeling or that it was all going to be roses and just perfect if I just like waited out. Just sat there and allowed me to cry or allowed me to feel how I felt during that complete huge time of change and just fear.
Exactly. I can't now. I don't even like when people say, I completely understand what you're going through. Like, I don't even like that. Well, let
Oh,
me
I think
explain
that's the
why.
worst.
Because here's the deal. Here's the deal with me and you. I can't understand being deaf. I can't. I'll be dead honest with you. But what I said with the bed story, I can relate, but I can't like fully understand.
Yeah, but even if you and I lived the exact same life and we had the exact same problems and our brain worked the exact same way, you are you and I am myself, and just in that, we will never fully understand the other person because you are unique and your thoughts are unique and your experiences are unique.
They are. Each one of us has a different taste of life, I guess is the way to put it. So, do visual tuners like help you in any way, and what are they, and how do they help you?
Absolutely. So one of the ones that I use is a free application. It's called Pano. And basically what it is the different notes that you can sing or play on a guitar. And you use it to tune your instrument. You know, if I'm playing a G, then it tunes and I can solidify that it's a G. But I can see that it is that note. So the tuner for me allows me a chance to actually see what I'm singing and adjust so that I
Okay.
can stay in pitch.
So does that mean like I'm just trying to think of how it works. So does it mean like when you play it, does it like go to like the phone, or does the phone like go to the music? I guess is what.
No, no, no. Like the phone is listening to me. So I'm gonna put this up. I know that the listeners on the podcast won't see it, but what I'm doing is it's a tuner, and I'm gonna sing a note. Which is a G. I have perfect pitch, so it's funny because I was just talking about G. So it's a G, and I could see that it's a G. You know what I mean? It shows it right there. And so if I am trying to find a note, I can watch myself get to that note, and then I can feel where that note is on my throat with the vibrations, and then kind of remember how that feels to be able to sing that note again.
So do you
It's a
also?
long process.
It sounds like it. So you also take your shoes off. I've seen you do that while you're playing. Does that? How does
Yeah.
that help you exactly? It makes you vibe and make you hear the tempo.
It's for feeling the floor. So, when I'm playing ukulele by myself or just singing by myself, I'm keeping time with myself, so it's not as needed. But when I'm playing with other musicians, there is a time and a tempo that is established with the whole group, and I want to be able to keep the pace and not play off. And so I feel the beat through the floor with my feet.
Oh, it's not tap dancing. It's basically just standing there dancing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sucking in the dance, I guess, with my
Yeah,
feet.
exactly.
I'm absorbing the dance.
Exactly. Absorber the dance. So you also are familiar, I think, with jazz times. What's your affiliation with that exactly?
Jazz Times?
Yes, ma'am.
The magazine?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, they're wonderful. Well, I was connected with them a long time ago. I did my first three albums were jazz. And so there was Smile, which was my first album, After You've Gone, which was my second, and All of Me, which was my third. and they were kind enough to review and post my first album in their magazine even.
So what are the albums that you have actually posted? What are some of the albums so you can promote that a little bit?
Yeah, well, so I have those three. The Smile, After You Gone, and All of Me are my jazz albums. And then my most recent album, which came out in last November, is Nice to Meet You. And that is an album of all original music outside of the very last song, which is a cover. But everything is, written by me, myself and a couple of other people. And it's a beautiful album. I think people would love to listen to it.
It sounds like a beautiful album. Now, when did you get into jazz music, actually?
I was into jazz from since I was like a young child, and I wanted to become, before losing my hearing, my goal was to become a music professor and teach vocal jazz. So my love was deep, but now, writing my own music, I found that the music that I write is not jazz. It's kind of a mix of a bunch of different things. And so the Nice to Meet You album is a completely different vibe than jazz itself.
Now, I noticed this too. You always do originals. Have you ever done a cover of a song? If you don't do covers, out of curiosity, how come?
No, of course I do covers. I
Oh,
love them.
oh,
Absolutely.
what
Now, I
what
don't
covers?
typically do like new stuff, stuff that you hear on the radio right now, just because I have to learn it. I can't listen to the radio and just learn stuff. I have to get it in sheet music form and spend like 10 to 12 hours learning one song just visually and working with people so that I can imitate it correctly. But so I don't normally have all the time in the world to do that, but there are a crap ton of songs that I know that I play all the time. So I love music and I have an amazing memory for music. So normally, if I've listened and learned a song, I don't forget it. I can remember songs that I sang when I was 4.
Wow, that's impressive. And I
Yeah.
get that because you have to learn it right away. It's not like a Thanos snap, honestly. No pun intended. No pun intended with Thanos dying, killing people. You also have won the VSA International Soloist Award. What is that exactly, and were you expecting to win it?
No, I was not expecting to win it. It is a competition that they do that's connected with the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. And it's an international competition where students, young adults who have some kind of a disability or a barrier, submits themselves and the music that they do to be judged in a competition. And then the winners get to fly to DC and perform at the Kennedy Center. And when I did it, they also gave me a prize trophy as well as a check for,
Wow.
yeah. It was a really cool situation, but being able to sing in the Kennedy Center before I lost my hearing was a dream, like a real dream. And to be able to have gone through this whole process of, one, you've lost your hearing, you're never going to be a good musician again, to discovering that that's a bunch of lies and the only limitation that I have is myself when it comes to my art form, and then accepting myself, but also understanding that my dreams will never necessarily ever be the same. Going to the Kennedy Center, I got to take back an old dream that I thought died, and it was an emotional experience. I mean, I have performed there 4 more times. So I've been to the Kennedy Center 5 times now.
Dang
So
it, that must be
I
your
think
second home.
yeah, I think they like me enough to keep me coming back.
Now let me ask you this. Do you like the
Yeah.
old dream better or the new dream?
I like
If
the
that
new
makes sense.
dream because I feel like in so many different ways I am more myself. And I look back on Mandy, who could hear, and constantly judging myself and being so afraid to talk to people and so afraid to stand up and have to give a presentation or sing in front of people. And I was just a ball of anxiety and stress. And then living through my biggest fear, which was losing my hearing, and coming out of it on the other side. Truly, why am I afraid of some of these things that it used to be so crippling? What's the worst that could happen? Or in a better light, what's the best that could happen? What's the best that can happen by getting up and playing a song that I wrote? What's the best that can happen by pushing myself past my comfort zone?
Do you think there's like a middle ground though? At the same time, like is there like this is the best, the worst, and then there's the middle ground? Do you think there's that, or is it just best and worst?
I think that you have varying degrees. I think that some days are just beautiful. Is it the most beautiful? Maybe it is in that moment, but there's going to be another beautiful moment that comes later that expands your horizon so that maybe it's even more than what you thought it was ever going to be. I think that my original dream was amazing. And I think that had I kept my hearing and had I been able to finish it, I would have been a kick butt jazz choral teacher and I would have just been amazing at that job and I would have loved it. And I think that that would have been more than anything that I could have hoped for. But that's not the situation that I'm in now. So there's no point to me being upset about a life that I can't have. I can't go backwards in time. I
Yeah,
can only go forward.
you can't, but maybe at the same time, have you ever thought that maybe losing your hearing was kind of considered a gift?
I do. I mean, it's part of life. Everybody deals with different things, and sometimes, I think if I can be so bold, your autism has shaped you in a way that makes you unique and that has given you a way for you to communicate with people. Like this platform, this podcast, you get to encourage and reach people who you never would have been able to reach had you not been autistic.
Exactly. And you being deaf with music, that's a gift. I mean, you were in there either way, but with the gift part is losing your hearing in a way because you touch people who are deaf and you've been through many experiences that I can't go through.
Yeah, we're all trying to do our part to make the world a little better.
Now, you also actually wrote a book called My Voice in a World Without Sound. How does that mirror your life exactly?
So, sensing the rhythm, finding my voice in a world without sound is a collection of stories that are things that happened to me during that transition of my life. And the goal of that book was to kind of show people how it felt and show people kind of the things that I was learning and dealing with and trying to grow from in hopes that if they're dealing with something that they can maybe have it be an encouragement to them that you can get through this. So, I mean, it is my life. It mirrors my life. It is my life.
Okay, now, is there a quote in there that means a lot to you? And if so, that why does that quote mean a lot to you?
I don't know. It's weird to quote myself.
I
Uh,
know.
um,
That's why I'm asking it.
I know that's hard. I don't know if there's like a quote that I like screams at me at this moment, but there are very specific stories that are very loud.
Can you tell us one
The
of them?
first Yeah, the first one, it's how the book starts, and it means more now that my grandmother passed away, but she used to make these quilts, and she made me this quilt that was using little pieces of fabric from all of the dresses and all of the clothes that she used to make me when I was a kid. And so this blanket that she gave me is a collection of stories. It's a collection of my past and my history. And so you never know what the end of the quilt is going to look like. It's just a collection of messy little bits and pieces. They were all scraps. And I just think that it was just such a powerful thing to take trash, broken pieces, weave them together, and make something beautiful.
That was actually because I'm learning something in my CEO class about that. Actually, everything has value.
Yeah,
I really believe that,
I
Maureen.
really do too.
So you're also an ambassador for No Barriers, I think,
Yeah.
if I'm correct.
Yes, sir.
So why is being an ambassador for No Barriers important to you?
It's important to me because it is a collection of people with and without disabilities who are trying to overcome obstacles. And the core of the No Barriers life is what's within you is stronger than what's in your way. So our internal determination is what will help you succeed past the barriers that you face. The lovely thing about No Barriers is that it's always been about a community effort to accomplish those goals. So you have people like Kyle Maynard, who is an incredible human being, and he was born without arms or legs. And his dream, his goal was to climb a mountain with Eric. And so when he came to one of the summits, there was a mountain climb that was going to happen with Eric, and he wanted to go. And so they fashioned together with towels and duct tape these like mock coverings. I've been told, he's called them nubs, of where he just naturally doesn't have arms or legs to protect himself from the rocks. And he crab walked up a entire mountain. And like, these are the people that you're surrounded by. You're surrounded by people who are just people, and they're not going to allow their difference to define them or limit them or put them in a box of possibilities that are capped off. It's just an incredible organization.
Yeah, we're all one. We're not less. As Temple Grandin, I don't know if you heard Temple Grandin before, but she's the biggest autistic advocate. She said, we're different, not less.
Right.
That's definitely agree. What you just said basically explain that. Now, with No Barriers, how do you like challenge them, but also know their limits?
I mean, that's to determine by every person. Every individual is the one who sets their own limits, because, like, as a challenge, like, we really just challenge each other by pushing our own limits. When you're around people who are breaking barriers, it's infectious, and you want to also be encouraged to know that you can break your own as well. And so, it's, you're watching Kyle crab walk up a mountain while you're also watching this kid, who doesn't have legs, and she's got these beautiful prosthetics, and she's like 6, and she's like running full speed, and her mom is just like gasping trying to catch up with her. Like, there's all these different people with all their different stories, and it just gives you the confidence and the internal understanding that I got to get out of my own way, and I'm going to make this work. And when and if I fail, that's just going to be when and if I fail the first time, because I'm going to keep knocking at this wall until I break it down.
You're going to do it. Yeah, it's how we feel. I think every person with disability has like the biggest, like, for me, we all have, I think, with disabilities have big determinations. Like, we truly do, like, extra determination.
Yeah, and I think that is one of the biggest gifts that you can have when you have a difference, is that you not only are forced to see the world differently, but you have a personal drive to prove yourself, kind of just as a basic need. It's an unfortunate reality that we struggle in, to have to prove that we're not dumb, or prove that we're capable, or prove that we don't always need help and people babying us for everything, that we can do things independently and live fruitful, beautiful lives. It's frustrating that we have to prove that. But at the same time, proving that again and again and again has made us stronger.
Yeah, and to me, it's fun in a funny way, if that makes any sense. That might be kind of weird. It's fun to prove people wrong when you're trying to show them that we're doing it.
Yeah, it's a good educational moment.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I was trying to go. So you also, as we said, you have some connections with autism. So how is that a part of your life exactly?
So a lot of the people in my family are on the spectrum. So I've got, and I don't want to call out family members because that's their story to tell and not mine, but there are many people in my family, and including my mom, and she's very vocal about it. So I know that she wouldn't mind. We're all a little different, and we think differently, and we're not socially always correct, that's for sure. We're very socially awkward and anxious people, but it's just kind of always been a part of my life and culture, that so much so that when I got out into the real world, quote unquote, the real world, I thought that everybody else was truly weird because they didn't think the way that we thought, or they didn't respond the ways that we responded because my entire family is kind of nestled in this group, that the rest of the world, the normal people, seemed really weird.
Exactly. Yeah, and my mom and our opinions, we'll tell you right now that we're normal. It's a made up word.
Yeah,
It's fake.
it's weird.
That's what I love. Weird, eccentric. I love those words. And so with autism, what are some of like, I don't want to say like problems because that'd be like going over the line, but
No, different
diffi-
differences or barriers.
difficulties that that people have had to come with your family in autism.
Yeah. I mean, especially, you're talking about like COVID right now and you're having online learning. Online learning is so difficult when you are a different learner and a different communicator. And, being on your own and not socializing with other people sounds kind of like a vacation. Where it's like, oh, finally, I don't have to think that through or stress about not responding correctly or whatnot. But it also is the only practice that we would have, to be around other people and to challenge us to grow, that's missing. And the way that the teachers are teaching is not conducive to some of my nieces and nephews' abilities to process information. It's not healthy for them anymore. And it's putting a lot of strain on the parents trying to figure out the best ways to bridge those gaps.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
can relate to that. COVID-19, it is a pain, but well, I think we'll get through it eventually. I really
Yeah, hopefully sooner rather than later. I'm ready for it to be a thing of the past, but unfortunately, I don't think that that's going to be the case quite yet.
So you also apparently, when you went through that like dark line, you were about a journal. Can you talk about that journal you wrote in that consisted of certain sounds? I thought it was kind of unique, but
Yeah,
I'll learn more about it.
well, I mean, my life was turning upside down. And so I was trying to kind of keep some semblance of normalcy. And so I had a journal that I would write sounds out that I could still hear and kind of describe them as to help myself remember what they sounded like in case I forgot them in the future. And then on the other side of the notebook, I would put all of the things that I couldn't remember and couldn't hear anymore. And as kind of like this, like, oh, I should investigate and make sure I do some research so I could write down what that sounds like to try to force myself to remember. But as it kept going more and more and more, I found that the things that I could remember and the things that I could hear kept getting less and less and less and less and less. And then the other side of I don't remember, don't remember, don't remember kept getting so much bigger, and to a point where there was no need to have both anymore. It was just gone.
Yeah, you lost one side, but you gained another side.
I did. I did. I got to rewrite it all. So, like I get the benefit. I live in Florida, and so people go to the beach and they listen to the waves. But, like for me, I get to stand in front of the waves and they can sound like anything I want them to.
Yeah, they can sound like a dog barking.
They could be anything. So it really does allow woo, woo, woo. But it could be anything. And it gives me a lot of freedom.
It does. That is. I never thought that would definitely gives you a lot of freedom. So I also noticed that you do this a lot, and I was on JGT. You wave both hands in the air.
Yeah, that's deaf applause.
Oh, it's deaf applause. I was gonna ask you what that means. So it's deaf applause.
Yeah, yeah, because
Okay.
like if you clap without sound, it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
So and as a deaf person, I can see sort of that you're clapping, but it just kind of looks weird. And so doing deaf applause,
Applause.
it's a visual
Oh,
it's a visual clap.
I get it. When you first, I thought you were like celebrating, like
Yeah,
deaf
I
celebration,
really am happy with myself.
like getting like shooting the confetti out.
Yeah, yeah.
And I want to ask you this too. This is like about this is the final question about deaf. So I
Mhm.
noticed this when you're interviewing others, and I'm glad you have your captions on, obviously. But when you
Yeah.
go up on like interviews, when you like live before this hit, obviously you were talking to the person, but you have this interpreter, right?
Yeah.
How do
I
you
have
how do you manage talking to this person who like you're initiating a conversation to, but also trying to like gather the information from the interpreter? Like, learn what they're saying.
Well, I mean, it's the same as reading these captions, like I'm looking at you, but I'm not looking at you always. Like I'm kind of looking past you at the captions when I'm with an interpreter. The interpreter is almost always positioned to your right. Well, you're my left, your right. And so that I can look at you, but I can actually see them directly behind you. So they're just kind of off behind so I can see what they're signing and then respond to you. The interesting thing about that situation that a lot of people get wrong, I guess, or try too hard with is that they expect they like want to turn and talk to the interpreter to ask questions to me when the interpreter is just a conduit, a tool, so talk to me. Even if I'm looking past you, just look at me and talk to me because as soon as I'm not looking at the interpreter, I will look you in the eye. I will turn myself back to you and I'm the one having the conversation.
Yeah, you just need to gather the information,
Yeah.
basically. So
Yeah.
now these questions are just for fun. So my first one is, what is like your favorite food, and why is it your favorite?
My gosh, I love food. I love food so much. Oh no, favorite? I love salmon. Salmon and scallops. I like seafood a
Seafood.
lot. I cook a lot of food. A lot.
What do you like to cook?
I like to cook it all.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
like to cook it all. I'm very, very, very happy to cook.
All right. That makes a lot of sense. I'm trying to cook, but I'm not the best cook. I'm just disorganized when it happens.
You'll get better.
I
It's
hope so.
the
I
more
hope
you
so.
do it, the easier it gets.
All right, that helps. Thank you. So, what is your favorite movie or TV show, and why do you like it?
Oh gosh. These are tough. Favorite movie from when I was a kid was a movie called Without a Clue. It's like a Sherlock Holmes, Dr. Watson comedy. And I just thought it was really funny.
I got you.
That was my favorite when I was a kid. Favorite TV shows? I don't know. I like a lot of the older stuff. Really enjoyed stuff like Frasier and MASH and even Gilligan's Island. Like the older stuff was always more fun. But current stuff, I really love Rick and Morty, which I know is an inappropriate show, but it's the truth. I love that show.
Who cares, right? I watch inappropriate stuff sometimes. I even watch like child stuff, like Scooby Doo or Tom and Jerry sometimes.
Man, Bugs Bunny, when Bugs Bunny does the operas, that's like the best.
Or what's that, Doc?
Yeah, the guy who voiced Bugs Bunny was actually allergic to carrots.
No.
And so they always did the like the crunching at the very end of the recording day. They would do a bunch of the carrots because he would have to rinse his mouth out and spit them out because he was highly allergic to them. His whole mouth would swell up and neck would swell up.
And I feel bad.
No, that's hilarious.
It is hilarious.
Your
but
main job, the thing that you're famous for, is a creature that can't eat the one thing you can't eat.
what if you swallowed it? That's the
I
worst
know,
part.
like he'd have to go home. That's why they always did the carrot stuff at the end.
So now, what's been your like favorite vacation that you've ever taken?
France.
France? Oh, Paris? Paris?
Yeah,
Or...
well, Nice, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What was there exactly that you liked about it?
Well, my guy is from Nice and his family's there, and it's an absolutely gorgeous place, but you have such history and such culture and cobblestones, and you have mountains that go directly to the sea. It's just beautiful. And to
sounds
have
beautiful.
family there, it's amazing.
It sounds beautiful. So, what are some like your proudest accomplishments you've ever made in your life before being deaf and after being deaf?
Before being deaf, before
Or
losing
all?
my hearing, I'll do all. I'll just do all. After losing my hearing and learning a song again and trying to figure out how to sing, I was pushed to sing at Jay's Bistro, which is a jazz club in Fort Collins, for like an open mic night there. It was a Thursday. And I have always been super awkward and super shy in front of people. When I was in high school, I used to actually like throw up when somebody would look at me too long. So I would just get really nervous. And I remember I just was ballsy, and I put my hand on the piano and I felt the beat and I sang my first note and the pianist confirmed it and I sang a song in front of an audience. There was 3 people eating dinner and not paying any attention, but to me, it was the most outside of my comfort zone I had ever dared to go. And it was my proudest moments even today as a performer, because that was the day that really started it all.
That's good. I'm glad you did that. Really glad.
It was terrifying, but I survived it, and then I did it again and again and again until it became less terrifying.
Was that the thing that you said I got your fear over public speaking?
Kind of. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like losing my hearing, and then like my biggest fear was losing my hearing. So once that happened, I was just like, well, this isn't as scary as it could be. You know, I thought losing my hearing was going to kill me, and I'm just fine. I'm just different. I'm just fine, though.
Yeah.
So what is this going to do?
Yeah,
It's
you're
not like
okay, but in a different way.
But like if I sing a song and somebody doesn't like it, like what's the worst that can happen? They're not going to explode, you know, just because I sing a note wrong. They're not going to like just burst into flame. You know, there's really nothing that's going to happen other than somebody might not like it. Who cares?
Who exactly? Who cares? You did it.
I did it. I'm expressing myself.
So my final question is, are there any good memories that you want to tell our viewers about? If so, I want a good one and a funny one.
Oh my goodness. I have a lot of experiences that I've done. A good experience was I went to Nepal for 2 weeks with a group of differently abled high school students. And in Nepal, if you're born with a disability or a difference, you're cursed. So it's a culture problem. And so we went, this ragtag group of cursed kids and a few leaders, and we got to be a positive impact for 2 weeks. Everywhere that we went, they were skeptical that we were able to succeed in what we were trying to do, and we were constantly proving them wrong. And it was just this amazing experience that I will remember for the rest of my life, including one of the hardest experiences that I've had so far, which was after it was like 2.5 days of riding horseback through the Mustang. And, you know, the Himalayan mountains are hard enough, but sitting on the back of a horse for 2.5 days, I don't know how cowboys do it. Like an hour, good. 2 hours, fine. 6 hours, you start to like really be in serious pain. 2.5 days, you don't even know who you are anymore. So kudos to the cowboys out there, because
they must have strong thighs.
They must be completely numb from the hip down.
They must be.
Must be.
Well, that'll be all for us today. Do you have anything else you'd like to say?
Thank you for letting me be here, and thank you for being such an encouragement to people who are just unique. It's really special what you're doing, and I'm very proud of you.
Nice to meet you. Are we flying, or is it all in my head? I'm second guessing, but I'm trying before it all disappears.
Thanks for joining for this episode. Please tune in for another episode coming very soon. Hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble. Thank you very much.